But yes, like, all in all, it just comes down to what we view as the type of systems that we want and and how do we want our systems to serve us. I think that's the biggest thing as we start stepping more into like systematization. And it's not just only to get systems in place so that we can be more productive or more efficient, but it's to answer the questions on how do I get more time back so that I'm doing less directing, less managing of the day-to-day aspects, and really be able to scale past where some of these barriers were and to make all of the things that we've built or that we've done work for us at the end of the day. And so as we start building out content, as we start generating, podcasts or YouTube videos or even blog posts, how do we tie that all together so that it becomes the cyclical system that will just go on evergreen and continue to work for us down the road and beyond, right? And so, that's, I think, would be a really good jump off point for us to start talking about. And I think as we have, worked with so many different clients throughout the years, where did they, start experiencing the gaps in the systems, I suppose, right?
Yeah. And, you and I work together on so many different processes and systems within my business. So if any of you have looked at the sales page for the strategy sessions, that was Theresa coming in and going, you're doing the same thing with different people, and then you're changing it slightly every time. Just make it the same thing so that way someone else can set it up for you. And it was like, right. And we're talking about the things we're going to talk about here when it comes to your marketing systems can be applied to other places in your business, your bookkeeping systems, your administrative systems, your team systems, whatever those look like. But since this is summer camp, let's talk specifically about marketing systems and specifically about content production systems. Because if a blog post takes you 4 hours, it's going to eat up, let's say work a 40-hour week, it's going to eat up 10% of your week to write a blog post. If you can cut the amount of time that takes to 2 hours, maybe you can write 2, or you can write them every week instead of every other week. Or if you can cut it down, where we're at the point now with our team where I can take a half an hour and record a video and then send it to the editor. I have to do a little bit of back and forth to be like, let's change out this graphic a little bit. And then the team puts it up on YouTube and I double check that. And the team turns it into a blog post, turns it into social media posts, turns it into other things, where I am spending probably a half an hour, 45 minutes on each one of these videos that turn into really great assets that are long-term in the business. So it doesn't have to be, it used to be 2, 3, 4 hours for me to create content. And now, because we have this process in place that is the same every time, it doesn't have to take hours and hours and hours.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you just hit a really, really strong point there, right? Which is, what is the minimal viable piece that you need to be a part of? And for yourself, it was the domino effect, which is what I consider it, right? Where you just need to create the content. And then if you do have a team, that the team would be able to take that through the process itself. And it's so important to really have standardized processes where it stays stagnant, right? And you're making minor adjustments to the process flow as you continue to go. And there is always room for continuous improvement for sure. But what we always want to try and do is run through that process 5 to 10 times first, just to kind of see if we can work out some of those kinks and do it the same way first before we make any adjustments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you're constantly changing the process, and then the team can't stay up to date with it, right? Can't keep up with it. And so, when we started refining, the content process for yourself, that's the idea that we went for, right? Is that, okay, this is what the process flow is, what's working, what's not working, and continuing to just stay grounded to that process, right?